Start now.
Hello, I'm Nancy Watson, and I'm going to talk about who led me to think about service, which I think is very important. And my answer is my parents, who were both very service-oriented. My mother and my father both taught Sunday school for years. And my mother taught a women's class, my father taught a father's class. In fact, my father taught that class so long that everybody died but my father. So that tells you how faithful he was. My mother was a lifelong member of the Women's Society for Christian Service, a long time member of women's circles in the church where I grew up. And I can remember her baking pies and cakes and cookies for the bake sales for money that would go overseas for missions. She was a great believer in that. And one time they had a sale where they made crafts, and I can still remember that the plastic pattern she had for they made up. It was a thing for little children to sit on while they watched TV. It was like a horse. It was made out of plastic filled with sawdust. Can you imagine all these women sewing a plastic horse that sat on the floor, and then children sat on it while they watched TV? A labor of love if there ever was one. Anyway, that was my mother. She always wanted to do those kinds of things. Mission was a big thing for my mother. And another thing my mother did was, we lived in the country and we had not a lot of money, but food. We had a garden and chickens and beef, and we had food. And she worried about a poor family in our neighborhood, and she always took food to that poor family. So that was very much ingrained in me. My father was also a Gideon. A lot of people don't know who Gideons are. Gideons are the people that put Bibles in the hotels and in hospitals. And I remember my father getting up early in the morning and going down to give New Testaments to the recruits that were going off to basic training. And I sometimes went with my father when he went to churches and made talks about the Gideons. And then he stood at the back of the church with an open Bible, and people would, if they were so inclined, would give money to carry on the work of the Gideons. So if you ever see a Gideon Bible, that was people like my father that did that kind of work. And the last thing I want to tell you about my dad is, had nothing to do with church work. He loved to tow people out of the ditch. We lived on a curve, and they often misjudged that curve when it was snowy. And he loved when people slid off in the ditch to hook a chain up to their car and get his truck out and pull them out of the ditch. So we used to laugh, my brothers and sisters and I used to laugh about Dad getting a kick out of that. But I bet if you were one of those people in the ditch, you were happy to see that man come along and pull you out. And so that's how I learned about service for my folks. Thank you.